Okay, so I'll just explain a little bit about Ayurveda. I won't go into too much detail about it because it's quite a big subject, but just to give you a bit of an overview of what it is in case you don't know much about it. So Ayurveda, it's a Sanskrit word and it loosely translates to the science of life, the knowledge of life, and it's the oldest healing system in the world. So it evolved alongside the practice of yoga thousands of years ago. And it's a very holistic approach to well-being. So it recognizes that we are part of nature and it looks to nature for guidance about how we can nourish ourselves. So it sort of sees us as this mirror of what's happening in nature. So according to Ayurveda, the universe is constructed of 5 elements: air, space, fire, water, and earth. And because we are microcosms of the universe, we are also made up of these elements in varying amounts depending on our individual constitution. And we're really seeking to find balance in the elements within ourselves in order to maintain well-being at any given moment. And we can do this by seeking out opposite qualities using our diet and our self-care routines and our lifestyle choices. So what I mean by this, as an example, is at the moment we're in Kapha season. So this characterizes the end of winter, the beginning of spring. And this season's very dominant in the elements of earth and water. So if you look outside, you can see within nature that there's a lot of moisture in the air, there's a lot of moisture in the earth. It's still a lot of coldness, like cool air, and a bit of a heaviness that comes from a result of a long, cold winter. So everything's sort of trying to come out of its shell a little bit, but it's still quite weighted down. So you might be feeling that within you as well. You might feel this sort of heaviness, lethargy, slow digestion, just a slowness in general, and maybe some excess mucus is coming up. It's very much cold and flu season. So to balance these qualities of earth and water, the dense and the moist and the heavy qualities, we can invite more opposite qualities of like warming, light, dry, mobile and penetrating qualities through the foods that we eat and also the lifestyle practices that we have. So this can look like more movement. So it's definitely the time of year to make sure you get up and do something, even if it's just like a 15-20 minute gentle yoga practice just to get the body moving, or just out for a walk, just 20 minutes in the morning. Otherwise we can get stuck in our little bed domes. So yeah, it's really important just to keep things moving and try and encourage your body out of stagnation. And then food-wise, we're choosing to eat more warming foods in the early spring, which might come as a bit of a surprise to you if you are used to things like juice cleanses and smoothie cleanses and things like that. These are great tools for your health. Juice cleansing can be really powerful for some people. Same with smoothies. From an Ayurvedic perspective, it's not quite season for that yet. We're still very much in a cold season and a very damp season. And by adding these things to our body at this time in too much quantity, we can exacerbate those qualities and the symptoms that come as a result of that. And I guess if you look at nature as well, you can see that things are sprouting up, but there's also a very gentleness to it. There's a lot of leaves that are sort of folded inward and they're not quite coming up and out yet. So if we are a mirror of what's happening in nature, we are also, still kind of focused inward. So there's this sense of hibernation is still there, but there's a little bit more energy behind it. So what we're trying to do is encourage the energy to come forth without sort of dampening the digestive fire, because our digestive fire is also quite weak at this time of year after a sort of heavy winter. So that's the point of the cleanse, really, is to really warm this area. This is our Agni here, where our digestive fire lives, and to keep this warm and reignite the fire, basically, so that we can enjoy more cold foods as the summer comes around. So nature's looking inwards, we're looking inwards, we're increasing warm foods, or encouraging warm foods, and lighter foods, so foods that are easily digestible, simple soups and well-cooked stews and well-cooked grains, but grains that are of more drying qualities, so things like millet and quinoa and buckwheat, as opposed to more heavy grains like oats. Which can just exacerbate, again, the kapha element, which we're trying to move through and balance. So drying grains, lighter grains, warming and penetrating spices, which is, of course, we're using a lot of in the cleanse. Bitter greens, things like rocket and watercress, and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower. All of these things are really help to encourage detoxification. And then, of course, we can look at nature as well. What's happening in nature? What is nature offering us at this time of year? And generally what nature offers us is what we require, what our body requires. So we have lots of greens coming up, lots of sprouting greens, and radishes, for example, they're coming into season, and they have like this very sharp and pungent qualities that can really help to reignite the digestive fire. Nettles and dandelion, lots of foraged greens, all very detoxifying. And our bodies do have a very natural inclination to detoxify at this time of year as well. It's as we enter the spring, a lot of the fat that we've stored over the winter, it begins to break down, and it can get lodged in our blood and in our lymph. So whilst the body is trying to cleanse, we might need to encourage it a little bit, encourage it along with our diet and our lifestyle choices. These are really powerful tools that we can use just to encourage that cleansing and the expulsion of excess fat and excess mucus, and get things moving. So it is a perfect time of year for an Ayurvedic cleanse. It's a warming cleanse. It's not harsh. It's very gentle. It calls upon pungent spices and bitter greens to help to penetrate the heaviness and the stuckness we might be feeling. It's an opportunity to simplify the digestive process. And by doing that, our body can then focus on cleansing and cellular repair. So, it's not distracted with the energy of digestion. We're really simplifying that process. It also helps to balance the Agni, as I've mentioned, with the digestive fire, which plays a really important role in our overall health. And it allows us to build nourishing rituals and routines that can help us feel balanced in our lives. So within the cleanse, you might be practicing some of the self-care routines and just the ritual of getting up and doing these self-care practices, and then making your khichdi and eating at certain times of the day, and it's very ritualistic. And these are all tools we can take forward from the cleanse, to implement into our daily lives to help us feel balanced on a daily basis. It's also just great to do a cleanse to give yourself space to take a deeper look at your eating habits and let go of certain attachments that you might have around food. So doing it at this time of year, it's a great way to set yourself up for a good spring season, a healthy spring season. So there are a number of tools you can use to support the nutrition side of the cleanse. So it's very holistic. And I would really recommend trying at least one or two of these. And, if you can do them all, then that's great. But also, please don't feel guilty or any sort of pressure if you've got really a busy life and you've got commitments. However, it really does make a difference. So if you can, you can get up a little bit earlier to make sure that you are doing some of these practices, you will notice a difference. So the first thing in the PDF that I've talked about is the tongue scraping. This is something that I do every single day now because it literally takes 2 seconds. And once you've got the scraper, it's just a really great tool. So you want to go to the back of your mouth, like this, back of the tongue, and just scrape forward maybe 3 or 4 times. And what you'll notice is there'll be like a bit of a white gunk generally. That tends to be what happens, which is just a build-up of toxins that have come up during your sleep when your body's naturally detoxifying during your sleep. So it's just getting rid of those toxins before you do anything else. So I tend to just wake up and scrape my tongue and then brush my teeth afterwards before I even drink a glass of water, so I'm not swallowing the toxins back down. I'm really addicted to it now. It's really difficult to not do it in the morning. So it's a great thing to do during your cleanse, because you will notice a change from when you start the cleanse to when you finish it. And what should happen is the gunk should clear up a little bit. And and it's just then a great tool to monitor where your body is at. So if you do it on a regular basis, you'll be able to tell when there's a lot of stuff, and maybe when you need to take a day just to do another kitchery day, or just like do a bit of a cleanse just for one day or something. Just keeps you in check, basically. It's a really good indicator of where your body is at. So that's one thing. And then the next thing that is a great tool is using a dry skin brush. So this is something that you would do with without moisture, with a dry body, and it really encourages the lymph to move. Our blood obviously has a pump, it has the heart, but our lymph, it doesn't move on its own. It doesn't have its own pump, so we have to encourage it to move. And we do that anyway. If we're moving around, we're encouraging the lymph to move. But this is also a great tool to help that process along. So what I do is I start from the extremities. So we've got hand, and I would go circular motion, quite firm, so that it starts to feel quite warming, but not too firm that you hurt yourself. So just strong. And then you'd move on to your wrist. So around all of the joints, you go in circular motions. And then when you get to the limbs, you can go in sweeping movements like this. And then again on the joints, circular motions. It's good to start from the limbs. So I tend to start on my feet and work my way up, like ankles and legs. And then I do my arms and come up. And then I do my body, I do around the heart, and around the digestion as well. So around the GI tract, just there. In an anti-clockwise motion, you can go in circular anti-clockwise motion, and that'll help to move the digestive system along as well if you're struggling with anything like that during the cleanse, which can happen. So that's really helpful. And also just to note, the skin is our biggest detox organ. So if you're finding any sort of detox symptoms become too much, this tool really helps, because it allows the toxins that are trying to escape to release a little bit as well. That's something that I tend to do before I shower, mainly because I do the oil massage just after that. So I would use the dry skin brush, and then I would use the sesame oil to massage myself. So with the sesame oil, you would want to use an unrefined, cold-pressed, organic version. So not toasted, and organic wherever possible. And you can just add a little bit to maybe like a cup or a little jar. You want about 1/4 of a cup. So you can be quite generous with it when you put it on your skin. And then you can fill your sink up to maybe just to here. With hot water, and let the jar or the cup sit in the water, and that will just gently heat it whilst you're doing your dry skin brushing, or just whilst you're taking your clothes off. It won't take long to heat up, so that when you put it on your skin, it feels really warming. And then it's just such a nourishing thing to do. It's one of the most powerful things that I've found for calming my nervous system. It's just, again, I start from the feet and work my way up, just giving myself a gentle massage, encouraging the lymph to move and the blood to flow. And you can go all the way up. So I mean, you might not want to do this every day if you're not washing your hair, but if you are on a hair wash day, then it's so nourishing to kind of get like into your ears and like up your nose as well, and like up into your scalp, and just kind of massage it around. About 15 minutes max, really, and you'll feel just like a warming sensation all over your body, and a real calming sensation. And then you can have a shower, wash it off. You don't need to use soap on your body with sesame oil because it's very naturally cleansing anyway. So that should just purify and get rid of some of the toxins as well. You can also use cold pressed sunflower oil, which might, if you have a pitta constitution, the sesame oil can irritate if you've got sensitive skin. Generally it's fine, but occasionally people find it's a bit warming for them. So the sunflower oil is more neutral for everyone. So another great option, especially if you get any sort of sensitivity in your skin. So that's the morning practices that you can enjoy, or you can enjoy them in the evening if you've got time in the evenings. There's also the really gorgeous, gentle 20-minute yoga practice from Ariane, who is a therapeutic yoga teacher. And this has been created specifically for our cleanse, so you should have all the access to that now. You can do that in the morning as part of your routine. It's great first thing on waking. Also in the evening. If you've got more time in the evening, that's totally fine as well. And then I'd also recommend that you just make time to go outside for a walk. It doesn't have to be far or fast, just a gentle walk, 20 minutes, half an hour every day, ideally in the morning, but equally, if you've not got time in the morning, then evening is fine. So that's the self-care part of the cleanse. And then when it comes to the diet, on a traditional Ayurvedic cleanse, you would just eat a mono diet, so just one type of food, which would be khichdi, 3 times a day or 4 times a day. 3 or 4 is fine. And you do that for 3 or more days. So you might really enjoy these 3 days and feel amazing and want to continue, and that is absolutely fine. Equally, if you just do 3 days, it will be really beneficial, so don't feel like you have to do more than that. But khichdi is a complete protein, so if you do choose to do it in the traditional way, where you eat khichdi 3 times a day, you would have all of the nutrition that you need. And it can be quite challenging to follow a mono diet because we're not used to that in our culture. We have developed certain attachments around eating variety and different foods and different flavours. But I just want to remind you that this is the work, and it's an invitation to gift yourself 3 days to break through habits and just really give yourself some space to reflect on that relationship with food and what your attachments might be and what might be working for you or what might not be working for you. Equally, I have included the optional green soup, the stewed apple and the golden milk if you are really struggling with a lack of variety. All of these things are brilliant for your cleanse, so it's totally fine to mix it up if you're getting bored of khichdi. But it is delicious and nourishing, and you might find that you become quite attached to it, like I tend to, and yeah, it's really great just to include in your diet every so often anyway, just as a bit of a breather. So yeah, what I typically do is start my day with stewed apple, and whilst I'm eating that, the khichdi is on the hob cooking away, and I'll cook a big batch for the day, which is the amount that's in your PDF. And so I'll have my stewed apple as a bit of a wake up for my digestion and just to get the sweet taste. And then I will eat khichdi maybe an hour later, so maybe about 10 o'clock I'll have a bowl of khichdi. And you can make the dressing as well, the mint and coriander dressing, chutney, which just brings it all to life. If you want to do that, it's really great. And then I will have another bowl of khichdi maybe at 1 o'clock, and then maybe another at 6 o'clock. So it's very ritualistic, if you can, try and stick to the same time every day so your body really knows what to expect and when to expect it, and it just really takes any stress out. for your mind. You know what's going to happen for 3 days. So that's how I do it. I really need food in the morning. That's just the way that works for me. A lot of people like to fast, and that's also fine. So you really can just shift the cleanse in a way that works for you in your routine, but just try and keep it routined. That's all I would say. So if you need to eat 4 meals, that's also fine. Like, it's really important to listen to your body and make sure you feel satiated and sustained. We're not trying to deprive. It's not like a striving thing. We're not trying to lose weight. We might lose a bit of weight, but it's not the goal. The goal is to simplify and to nurture and to nourish. And when you do that, when you make time to do that, your body is more receptive anyway to food, and your metabolism works better, and you'll find that this will set you up throughout the spring season. So to do the spice blends, this is a really good way of just preparing for the cleanse, because once you have all your spice mixes in jars and your seasonings and things, it really is a case of just throwing a meal together. So for the kitchery, we toast the coriander and the cumin and the fenugreek seeds, which just releases the oils and the flavour. So these get toasted gently, and then you can grind them down in a pestle and mortar or in a little spice grinder. I've got this electronic one, which is brilliant. And then you can add in all of the ground spices and just give that a mix, and then keep that in a little jar. So I have one for autumn. Where is it? I can't access it because it's behind my laptop, but basically just like a little jar like this, and then you can use that throughout the season to make dals and stews and soups. It doesn't have to be used for kitchery, it can be used for other things. So once you've made a batch of this, it can see you through. So hopefully this batch will see you through your kitchery for the next 3 days, and then you won't have to make it again, and it'll be really easy. So once you have your spice mix, when it comes to making the kitchery, I know some of you have already started this, you just need to you need to wash your mung dal and your rice well. So what I mean by that is, let me just give you an example. I've actually got some rice in here. You can put it in a pot like this or a bowl and just swill it around and then drain it through a sieve. And you want to do that probably about 3 times to really get the residue off the surface of the rice and the mung dal. And then you can add that to a cooking pot, and along with your spice mix and some chopped vegetables and some hot water. And then you just bring it to the boil and then lower it to a simmer. So the actual preparation takes 10 minutes, and then the cooking will take another maybe 40 minutes. You can just check on it every so often just to make sure there is enough moisture in there, give it a stir, and you can always add a little bit more water throughout. You want it to be like a porridge-like consistency, and you want the mung dal to be really soft, so not crunchy at all. And that's it. And then you can dress that however you want, whether you want to use the green sauce, a green chutney, or just a little bit of lemon juice and some black pepper or some coriander leaves, something like that. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be, basically. It's a great thing to just make when you've got leftover veg in the fridge. If you've always got mung dal and rice in your cupboard, it's like, okay, I don't know what to cook tonight, but I've got my spice mix and I've got my rice and I've got my mung dal, so I'll just use the leftover veg in the fridge and bung it in a pot. So really helpful for that. The tea, detox tea, very traditional Ayurvedic tea, CCFT they call it, coriander, cumin, fennel, digestive spices. Really great to drink throughout the day on your cleanse. So we want to make sure that we are really well hydrated on the cleanse. So to start the day with either a mug of the detox tea or some hot water or warm water with lemon and a slice of ginger, gets the cleansing process going. For the tea, all we do is we mix whole spices together, coriander, cumin, fennel, we did this earlier. So yeah, just in a little jar. And then you can just add a teaspoon to a litre of water, maybe a couple of slices of fresh ginger as well. Bring that to the boil and then let it simmer for maybe around 15 minutes. And then I tend to add it to like a hot flask so I can just sip it throughout the day. Ideally, you don't want to be drinking too much around your meals. So if you leave it, maybe try and leave it half an hour before your meal or after your meal to drink lots of fluids, simply because it just dampens the digestive fire a little bit, which can make it a little bit harder to digest. But we do want to be having lots of fluids throughout the day, so make sure you've got a flask of tea and you can just sip on it. Warm water and warm tea is best for our cells. It's just much easier for like hydration for the cells to access the water if it's at a warmer temperature. So that's the tea. And then of course you've got the golden milk. The spice mix is really simple: turmeric, cinnamon, ginger and black pepper to taste. I like mine quite pungent. Black pepper is great for clearing mucus from the body. So you know, I add a good teaspoon to my spice blend. But you can work with what works for you. And then once you've got that mix, I've got that somewhere as well. That's all you need to do to make your golden milk, is just add a couple of teaspoons or up to a couple of teaspoons depending on your preference to some almond milk on the hob. Give it a good whisk so that it becomes melded and not powdery. And let that heat for maybe like 10 to 15 minutes gently. And then you can add a little bit of sweetener if you want. Don't add it during the process, because it can, if you add things like honey to heat, it can become quite toxic. So you're looking for like a raw cold pressed honey if you eat honey, and you just add a little bit at the end so we're not overheating the honey. And the same if you don't eat honey, you can use maple syrup, just a little bit. And it's totally fine to have that on the cleanse, you know. We really villainize sweet things, but really what we should be villainising is the refined sugars. It's really great to have the sweet taste in our diet, and important on a cleanse to get all of the tastes, salt, sweet, pungent, spicy, just a little bit of each, just so that we're not craving anything. So hopefully that will help. You know, if you are craving something sweet, a golden milk in the morning or in the evening is just perfect for that, and just a little bit of sweetener, maple syrup or raw honey. And then there is an option as well to make a spring seasoning. This is great on top of the soup. So if you are planning to break the cleanse up a little bit by having some green soup, you can sprinkle a little bit of this seasoning on the soup. So that's made from lemon zest, basil, salt, pepper, and a bit of cayenne pepper as well. So again, just really good for removing mucus and warming the body. But the lemon zest and the basil just gives it a bit of a freshness, which you might miss a little bit, because obviously the khichdi is very well cooked. So if you are seeking something more fresh, that's a really good option. Okay, so I think that's everything. Just to say as well, you can, with the spring seasoning, the lemon zest seasoning, if you just keep that in the fridge, it does last for quite a while. So you can add that to top lots of different soups throughout the season as well, if you just make a batch of that. But I really hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that you feel nourished, and good luck with your first day, and keep in touch. And yeah, don't get too nervous about it. It's really gentle, it's really nourishing, and you might experience detox symptoms for a day or two, but they often pass after the second day. So stick with it, and I'll see you on the other side.